Well, I don't know that I can answer that because I don't know what it would have been like to not be making art, because I think I've been doing drawing or painting or now these collage things. I mean, I've been doing it all my life. I started as a child and I have never stopped. So I don't know what it was like without it. It would be like.
I have basically made art all my life. I grew up in an art family. My mother was an artist, and so I've drawn all my life and then continued to move into other areas. So being an artist is like just second nature.
Art was something that I think chose me. I mean, it wasn't like I grew up in a family that was exposed to a lot of art. I didn't go to museums and see, you know, famous works of art as a child. My work was more like I had to draw on all the blank pages of my Dr. Seuss book because I thought that's what they were there for. And so I've been drawing on blank pages in my childhood books or the door jamb of my bedroom and all sorts of places like that as long as I can remember. And I started looking through college catalogs and I realized that you could actually major in art. I was in heaven. So I don't know what it would have been like. It sort of chose me.
It's a nourishing thing. It revives me. It feeds me. It feeds my soul, who I am.
So after I graduated from nursing school and I started working and I had some money, and then I always would go to classes, and making art just makes me happy.
When I am working on art, particularly toward a show with a focus, I feel wonderful and I feel grumpy. I feel tense and I feel loose and excited. It's really the whole gambit of emotions that I feel, but I do like it when I am working.
Well, I'm much happier when I'm being creative. I realize that I need, not just for my mental welfare, my emotional welfare, but for my physical welfare, I have to paint.
It's the fact that I do artwork, I think, that makes me feel that my life, that I'm using my life.
The one thing I like about art is you're never done, and for example, if you take up cooking, all of a sudden at some point you're a good cook and there's really nowhere left to go. But with art, you never are finished, and in one sense that's very frustrating about it. But on the other hand, when you get to be my age, it's wonderful that there's still something that's a challenge.
It's given me a purpose in life, and sometimes I feel like maybe I've helped somebody see things differently, which is what I mean, people have said, oh, now I know what waning and waxing of the moon is, and that just astounds me, that you don't ever see the sky and look at what's going on.
When I'm really involved in a project in the studio, I'm much happier.
Well, it's just a great feeling when something works. As I used to say, when it sings. And when it sings, there's no feeling like it. It's just wonderful. And you know it when it happens. Doesn't happen every day.
But then when that creativity kicks in and I have a project I'm working on, that's when it just feels like everything is falling into place.
And I feel lucky every day that whatever I do, it's associated with art.
I'm convinced that when I'm interested in what I'm doing and I feel I have an opportunity to express myself and make something creative, I feel much better all the way around, physically, mentally, emotionally. I'm happier.
It encourages all the other parts of my life to be more creative, and I find that very gratifying. It gives me pleasure, so it helps everything in my life.
Yeah, I start off with an idea, And frequently it changes halfway through as something develops.
So having worked for a long time, I just know that it will come. I have confidence that something will happen. I know that any particular piece I'm working on might fail, and I may end up throwing it in the trash after working hours and hours on it. But there's a sense of freedom of knowing that, you know, no one's asked me to do this work. I'm not trying to please anybody else. I'm just searching for what's interesting to me. I'm trying to make art that I would want to look at as an artist and viewer.
Got an idea maybe that you don't even know about, and you pick out of all the things that are around you and that happen to you, you pick this and this and this to fit them together, and I think that's it.
Working from life, you know, on site, it's really the idea that I would start with is, oh, I'm going to go to a certain garden.
I draw my inspiration from a number of sources, and I actually try to feed that constantly by gathering things that excite me, that for whatever reason I'm attracted to it, and I may not even know why. Matter of fact, I try to keep a thorough journal and collection of ideas and visual imagery that may stay in a stack in my studio, you know, and I go through it each time I'm developing a new body of work.
So I never know where my inspiration is going to come from, per se, and where my beginnings are going to start. Sometimes they're just doodles. I'll just have a blank piece of paper and I can't resist making marks on it, and the marks turn into images, and the images turn into complex relationships, and I just keep my hand and eye busy.
Inspiration comes from a myriad of places for me. I think that actually be working on pieces of artwork that evolve, and sites and instances and things in my life start to come up and get involved in the process. Inspiration then would be a hopper full of impulse.
Sometimes I'll make art and I'll be in like a flow state, and I'll do it and I'll finish it and I'll put it away, and say months later I'll go back and I'll go, who did that? You know, it's a mystery sometimes that I did it, and I'll think, now how did I do that particularly? So it's an interesting process.
It never ends up like I start art, because it just changes along the way. It gets better than my original plan.
Most of the time I start off in a direction and the clay kind of doesn't want to go there, or it seems to work better if I do something different. I change, and I feel very free and comfortable getting partway into a notion, an idea, and then just changing or forgetting the whole thing.
Finishing is one of the hardest parts, or knowing when to quit is one of the hardest parts of doing a work. And for me, it's usually I don't know what else to do, or it feels like it's right, or I've ruined it and it's done.
You know the old saying, it takes two people to paint a picture, one to paint it and one to hit them over the head with a hammer when they finish. Because so frequently people just keep working and working and working and picking at it and ruin the freshness.
But I guess intuitively you just know, and I can't tell you when to start, but I will not overwork it.
How do I know when a piece is finished? I just know.
I usually kind of know when something's finished. I don't have a real problem with that.
But one thing that I notice about it that I kind of enjoy is sometimes when I'm going back and looking at old work of mine, I'm impressed that I surprise myself sometimes. I look at things and I go, how did I think of that? Or where did that come from? So it amazes me that I surprise myself in my own work sometimes.
A lot of courage to stay true to your own heart and create and start your journey creating, and in time evolve your own language. And I think, probably the hardest part.
Being an artist is just this sort of strange, nebulous thing. There's no clear-cut answers. There's no clear-cut questions. It's just wide open.